Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Earrings Off. We want to invite you to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. You can find us on Facebook at Earrings Off Podcast and on Instagram at The Earrings Off Podcast.
Welcome to Earrings Off. I'm Lou.
And I'm Teresa. Let's get started.
Studies show that 1 in 3 people will get cancer. So I think it's safe to say that we all know someone who has been impacted by cancer or some other health crisis. The thing is, when this happens, and in the moment, it is difficult to know how to navigate support of those impacted and their loved ones. In today's episode, Lou interviews Kim Hamer. And when I tell you, I've learned so much from this interview, to the point where, publicly I'd like to just say to all of my loved ones and friends who I feel like I've failed them during their time of need, because the one question that Kim says we shouldn't ask, or the one statement that she says we shouldn't make for two people in the time of need, is my go-to statement. It is, if you need anything, let me know. I don't want to spoil anything for the interview, but I now understand how open-ended that question is, or that statement is, and how not helpful it is, right? Let me just tell you a little bit about Kim. Kim, through her own experience with a health crisis and grief, and the support that was shown to her and her family during that time, launched 100actsoflove.com and started a business, she says, that helps friends, coworkers, and leaders just how to show up for people affected by cancer or dealing with a loss or a health crisis in a meaningful way at work and home. Settle in and get ready for a good conversation between Lou and Kim. It's a good one, y'all. Enjoy.
Well, hello. We have with us today Kim Hamer. Kim is an HR professional, and her story is very compelling. I'm going to let her share more as she helps us better understand how to support others when they are grieving. And I have to say, Kim, I'm a former social worker, so I actually did some counseling, but I went on your website and I am telling you, there's a lot of great stuff there. So thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to give out good, solid information for people, because it's something that we all can appreciate and benefit from. So welcome to Earrings Off, Kim.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Okay, well, great. So Kim, talk to us a little bit about why you are in this work.
Sure. So back in 2006, my athletic, very strong, organic eating husband was diagnosed with large B-cell lymphoma, stage 4. And for those of you who don't know much about cancer, there is no stage 5. Stage 4 is the worst it can be. It was literally weeks away from taking his life. And we, gathered around and, got him the help that he needed. And something I noticed was, we're a part of quite a few communities, and everyone kept saying to me and to him, if you need anything, let me know. If you need anything, let me know. And at first I was so grateful because it seemed like such a great thing to say. But then I soon realized it's actually the least helpful thing that you can say. And I'll get into that a little bit later. So he got untangled from cancer in 2007. And I use the word disentangled or untangled because cancer is an entanglement. And it's kind of like, it reminds me of Christmas tree lights, right? They get all twisted up.
Right, into everything.
It's everything. It involves all different kinds of people. It involves strangers and neighbors and friends and coworkers and kids. And, it just involves all these things and pets. And there are moments where the string, like it looks like you're going to get them all untangled. So the lights spread out. You've got, 6 feet of light. And then all of a sudden there's this big knot and you got to sit down and disentangle it. So that's really what cancer felt like to us. So in 2007, he disentangled himself and we were trying to build our lives back up. There's no, that before then I thought that, once you're cancer free, life goes back to this great, but it is not that journey. It wasn't that journey for us. And it depends on the type of treatment you had, everything. So we're putting our lives back together. He's feeling better and stronger, and we keep getting clear tests over and over and over again. Then in January 2009, he was not feeling well. We took him to the hospital, took him to the ER because he was having trouble breathing. He ended up having a blood clot. And then once they saw the x-rays, they saw that the cancer, they assumed the cancer was back. They did a biopsy 2 days later, and the cancer was back, stage 4 again. And then 4 months after that, he died.
Wow. Oh, Kim. Oh, my goodness. And Art, that was your husband's name.
Yes, that was his name.
And how old was he then?
He was young. 44 at the time. He was young, and our children were 12, 9, and 7. Our 2 boys had just turned 12, and my other son, youngest son, had just turned 7.
Oh, my goodness, Kim.
Yeah, well, as anyone can imagine, it was a horrific situation. It wasn't supposed to happen. It was really difficult. But what happened during the first cancer treatment, the second cancer treatment, and really within the first year after he died was people came together and supported us in ways that blew me away.
Yeah, I read that.
And I started calling them acts of love because that's what it felt like. Like someone would show up with lasagna and be like, I love you. And someone would take the kids on a Friday night and be like, we love you. And someone would, give my husband a ride to the cancer treatment center. And it was like, I love you. So that's how I came up with the title of the book. The book came first. I call it 100 Acts of Love, A Girlfriend's Guide to Loving Your Friend Through Cancer or Loss. You know that. And then I did the website. And so a couple years after he died, I needed to go back to work. And I went back to my first love, which was in HR. And I quickly realized, right, if people in the real world really don't know how to help, which was most of the people we were with, we had people who knew what to do, but most people didn't know what to do. And I realized if people in the real world don't know what to do, why is it we expect HR and managers to know how to manage an employee who is affected by cancer? So I kind of retooled my website, and now I'm focusing on helping managers understand how to really be compassionate and yet drive productivity when they have an employee affected by cancer. How do you talk to your team? How do you talk to that employee? How do you manage someone like that? Like what, because it's a touchy subject.
Well, and Kim, I have to say, when I looked at that on your website, because I'm a former executive, and the thing is, you want to be supportive. You absolutely do. But then it's like you say, you got to balance that with the reality of productivity because the work still has to be done.
Exactly.
And so it's a very hard role to navigate. And then in addition to that, you have your team members looking at you to see what's she doing. How's she navigating? How is she treating them? Because if this happens to me, and of course you have HR assessing what you're doing. So I am telling you, this is good stuff. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, it is a really tricky road, and I think what usually happens is, you have the executive managers who get coaching. They usually have some type of coaching, not always, but they get the coaching. But the middle managers are left trying to figure this out. And they're thinking about themselves personally. Like, I want to consider myself a good manager. So I want to be kind and loving and caring for this person, but they still have KPIs they have to meet. Like, how do you balance that conversation?
Right.
So that's what I spend most of my time doing right now.
Wow. Well, I have to tell you, that's quite admirable. And I know it's needed. I certainly needed it. So why do you think though, Kim, that people struggle with what to do or say?
The bottom line is we've never been taught. there's no elementary school or high school class or college class or like, life class that you have to take that teaches us. And so I think that we end up kind of repeating what our parents have done, and we think that, if we need that phrase, if you need anything, let me know, is the most helpful. And I think that a lot of times we don't know what to do is because we're afraid. We're afraid of tapping into that discomfort, that fear. I mean, to be supportive to someone dealing with cancer or loss or really kind of any type of health crisis takes courage. It's not like, you've got a manual in front of you and they've got the same manual. And so, you'll do step number 5 and we'll check off A, B, and C and we'll be done. It takes courage because you're risking most people are afraid that they're going to upset the person who's dealing with this crisis. And nobody wants it on the conscious. I don't want to know that I made someone's life worse.
Right.
So,
particularly then.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the first thing I talk to people about is just you need to take the phrase out of your mouth. If you need anything, let me know.
Yeah.
And it's the least helpful thing. And there's 3 specific reasons why. 1, what is anything? Like when we say that, we really do mean anything, but y'all, I had a toddler. And if you had a Mercedes Benz that you just got, were you going to go pick up my vomiting toddler and bring him home to me? And you're single? Probably not. That's probably not anything that you included. You meant that you would be happy to get a gallon of milk and drop it off at the house, right? Is anything meaning that you'd loan me some money so I could pay my cell phone bill? Is that anything? Like if I'm struggling, I can't do that. That feels right. So anything is too big a definition. The second reason it's unhelpful is you are asking the person who is in crisis, not thinking clearly, because they're not. They've got a lot going on in their minds right now, to break down their day into a bite-sized piece that you might be willing to take. So you're asking me to kind of sit through my whole day and go, oh gosh, actually this morning I was out of toilet paper. Could you get me toilet paper? Right? You're asking me to kind of break apart my day. My life has been my life, and I've been managing my life by myself or with my husband and my kids for however long. And so the idea of breaking it down doesn't work. I couldn't even, when someone says, can I help you with anything? Most of us go, no, I think I'm good right now. Right? We don't come up with something off the top of our head. The third reason it's really not helpful is because this person let's just say that I figure out what I need. And so I figured out what I need, and now I've got to, and I'm very vulnerable. Now I've got to ask you, the person who said to do anything, guessing that this thing that I need you to do might fall under the category of anything that you thought you'd be willing to do, and risk you not doing it. Just, I'm not going to do it. I'm too vulnerable. I'm too scared. I'm too raw. I'm not going to take that chance. The only time that phrase is a great phrase is if you've got your bestest friend who you've known for 20 years, you finish each other's sentences. And if she asks you anything, you're gonna be like, I need toilet paper. I need da, 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 and she will do it for you.
And
but
see,
everyone.
That's what I was wondering about, Kim. Does the proximity in the relationship make a difference?
Absolutely, it does. But even so, the people who helped the most were the ones who came up with ideas on how to help. They took the step back and they said, the second time around my husband had cancer, someone suggested that we put a cooler by the front door so we don't need to be home to answer the door. Now, this is before we had Uber Eats and everything else. But that was just, I was like, oh my gosh, that's the best idea. Because all of a sudden we didn't have to be home to answer. Sometimes we were home. We didn't want to answer the door. Right? We're exhausted from the day. So that was a brilliant idea. Someone suggested that they make sandwiches that they make lunches for the kids. And I had thought about it, but I thought, the sandwiches will get really soggy. And someone said, no. We'll just put together everything. And then all you have to do is put the sandwiches together in the morning. And I was like, brilliant idea. So the best help that we received were ideas from other people who were able to look at our life and go, you know what? I'm betting they're going to need that. They're probably going to need that. Let me offer it.
Yeah. Kim. Okay. All right. Good stuff. So what should I say? What should we say to someone with cancer as a friend or as a coworker, as a boss? What should we be saying?
Well, one of the first things I talk to my clients about is you have to feel your feelings. Because if you don't feel the sadness and the fear and the anger, I was really mad that my husband got cancer. I was really
Of course.
mad.
Yeah.
And so were a lot of other people. They're like,
Oh, yeah.
how dare you how
Yeah.
dare you come to his life?
Yeah.
So you have to feel your feelings, because once you get through that, and what I mean by that is just name them. Like, I'm not to them, not to the person with cancer. I'm really mad. I'm really sad. What happened recently 2 days ago and in Buffalo, I cried. And
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody,
Yeah.
but it was
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
so sad, and it
Yeah.
just hurt
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
So letting those feelings out is the number one thing I recommend, because then when you do that, you come to the person with more specifics. Something I always say is acknowledge what's happening in their lives. It is really okay for you to say to someone, I am so sorry. I don't even know what to say.
Right.
Right. That's a beautiful
Mm.
phrase, because it means that you are equally taken
Right.
aback by
Right.
what's occurring in their life.
Right. Right.
I'm sorry. You can say, I'm sorry. Now, some people go, well, it's not your fault.
Yeah.
That's their response,
Yeah.
but it's okay for you to say, I'm sorry. This is part of your journey. I'm sorry. This is hard. And then the last thing, if you want to take action, I say, be specific and offer more than once.
Okay.
The book I wrote is dedicated to a gentleman named Kinney, and he works in the Venice Farmers Market over here in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
And Kinney, when he heard that my husband had cancer, said, if you need anything heavy moved, let me know. And I thought that was the weirdest offer. I was like, heavy, like, okay, whatever. And in my California,
Wow.
whatever.
Yeah.
But do you know what? I remembered that offer. And I remembered it for years. And when after he died, we had a grand piano that I wanted moved. Who do you think I called?
Kenny.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So
the being specific.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is really helpful, and offering more than once, because like I said earlier,
Right.
that person that you're looking at is not dealing with a full deck of cards. Like, they're stressed. They may not remember that you even offered.
Right.
So you have to be courageous enough and say, hey, remember I said I put together the agenda for you on your meetings? Still willing to do that. Hey, the meeting's coming up next week. Happy to put the agenda for you, or sit down and talk to you about it, and I'll run the meeting. So you just kind of get in there. You don't want to be annoying. You have to kind of figure that out. And that's based on your relationship and your personality, but making those offers. Happy to pick you up to take you to work this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Happy to pick you up every Tuesday. Happy to bring you coffee every Wednesday. Just kind of continually offering.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And you know what? Teresa and I said when we started this podcast, we were going to be honest and authentic. So I have to say that's even as a former social worker, that's a phrase I use with people. What can I do? If you need anything. But Kim, not to let myself off the hook, but I thought by saying it or using that phrase, I was so concerned that I might overstep, that I might offend somehow. It's particularly when you navigate in a professional world, and so, but that's very helpful to me. Very helpful.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's why most people don't say or do anything, because they're afraid they're going to overstep the boundaries.
Yeah.
And, at risk of sounding a little bit mean, but it's not about us.
That's right.
It's not about us, the helper. It is about the person who's in crisis right now.
Yeah.
And it is way better that you overstep your boundary, I believe, than it is to do nothing. Because let's look at our lives. We all want to be witnessed. We want someone to say, hey, you're struggling. I see you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you're struggling, right? That's the point.
Yeah.
We all want to feel like we matter.
Absolutely.
And when you ignore the person at work, or when you just say one thing and then you walk away and forget about it for months, or don't mention that they're losing their hair or anything like that, you are basically saying to the person, yeah, you know what you're going through, not really important. Let's just, because I'm so afraid. I can't get past my own fear to really reach out and help you. And so that's what I mean when I talk about it takes courage to reach out.
You got to be willing.
You have to be willing.
Yeah.
But the benefits are amazing. I mean, My husband first was diagnosed, I kept a blog both times, but I remember this, I got an envelope in the mail, and there was no return address. And in it was a note. And she said, I've been following you on your blog. I can't afford to really do anything for you, but I just wanted to let you know that I see you, I hear you, and I'm sorry. And she enclosed $10. And that was the most valuable $10 I've ever received in my whole entire life. Right. Because it made me see, I felt like, okay, I'm not in this alone. And that's one of the things we're all trying to in life right now. We're all trying to be like, I'm not alone. I'm not alone. Is anyone else out there? I'm not alone. That is an incredible way to value somebody. Just when you say something to them, when you try to help, it may not be the right thing. That's okay.
Take the risk. Yeah.
It's taking the risk that is and it's valuable to you as a human, because we all want that connection. And when we step out of that comfort zone and try to connect with someone who's in pain, it makes us feel good too, right? It makes us feel more connected to humanity.
Right. Okay. So, so we talked about, are there other things that we shouldn't say that are just not helpful?
There's a lot of them. we can be here for 2 or 3 hours. I can list out every single one of them. But I will say this, a few things when you think about speaking, think about the meaning of what you're saying. And what I mean by that is, are you distancing yourself from the situation, or are you bringing yourself towards the situation? So for instance, there's 2 phrases that I've talked to widows and a ton of cancer survivors and other people in crisis that they really hate. One is, you got this, good for you, raw, be strong, all that other stuff. Basically what you're saying to them, when you say that to somebody, you're saying, it doesn't really matter what you're going through, just roar, just tough it out. You can do it. You're not acknowledging how difficult their journey is. You're not thinking about, in this moment, maybe they're like rah, but 2 minutes later, they could be on the floor in the bathroom in the office crying. You're not acknowledging the journey that they're going through. The second thing I often tell people not to say is, please don't do the at least. Well, at least it's the good cancer. At least you get to work. At least this, because it minimizes what they're going through. Right. And so I remember someone said to us, actually, someone said to me after my husband died, this is weeks after my husband died. I'm in my 40s. I've got these 3 young kids. And they say, well, at least you're young. You can still get married. You can get remarried. Like I was like, I felt like saying, oh, well, phew, thank gosh, I didn't realize that. I didn't think about that. Right.
Wow.
They were trying to make me feel better. And I think when we try to make someone feel better, it's not our job. We forget it's not our job. Our desire to make someone feel better is not about them. It's our desire to make ourselves feel better that we're kind of putting out there. It's uncomfortable. This person, if they don't get treatment, will die. That's what cancer is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's terrifying. It's terrifying to think something might be growing in my body right now that I have no idea. It's terrifying that it might happen to my children or my friends. So it is a terrifying place, but that's why it's so important to kind of name those feelings, get them out on paper or scream or whatever, because once you get them out, it becomes less scary. And once it becomes less scary, you're able to really approach the person who needs the support in a much kinder and more loving way. You're able to it's like getting down on the ground with a child, right? It's the same equivalent. It's just, it's getting on their level and not trying to fix anything.
Okay. So now, how then can a leader balance the employee's need for support and the team's need to get the work done?
Yeah, that's a good one. So when I consult with clients, I often, we do it over a period of time. So the first thing is, like I said, I have the manager kind of walk through their feelings, and they're pissed. They're really mad that this employee has got cancer and is kind of just throwing a whole wrench in the
Disrupting
system.
everything. Yeah.
Right. They feel guilty about the anger, but I'm like, no, that anger is valid. Do not feel guilty. Like, get it out. So that's the first thing, is really kind of you're like, you're like, look, could you have cancer on your time? Like,
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
not on my time. So I think the first thing is talking about acknowledging the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is the cancer. With how cancer treatments have progressed over the last at least 15 years, cancer is no longer you have to leave work and deal with it. People will work with cancer all the time. Mm-hmm. So it's having those open conversations with your employee of like, hey, and the other piece of this too is managers also have to be aware of all the legal guidelines, right? You can't say to an employee, what kind of cancer do you have and what exactly is your treatment going? Are you going to get chemo? You can't ask those questions. Yeah. If you have a close relationship with them, the employee might volunteer that information. So you can sit down and say, I need to understand how much time you need off or what your work schedule will be for the next, month or two. We have some big projects. Let's talk about what ones you really want to focus on and what ones we can move to other team members for the short term. A mistake I see managers make all the time is they'll remove all the kind of juicy projects from them. Mm-hmm. And then the employee is left doing stuff that they don't like, that's not inspiring to them. And they do it out of, the manager does it out of fear, but we often forget work is important. Work isn't a huge identifier for a lot of us.
Absolutely.
So when you start pulling stuff away from an employee like that, it can be really difficult. And that employee talks to other employees.
Yeah.
So
and it sort of sends the message that we're restructuring because we know you're not going to be here. It's unintentional, but that's sort of a message that you're sending.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It sends a message of, hey, you can't do this job.
Yeah.
And the manager does not know if the employee can do the job or not.
So in addition to everything else that the employee is dealing with, they're dealing with that. So that's another stressor.
Exactly. It's another stressor. Exactly. And keep in mind, like you said, the team is watching. Yeah. And some team members might be like, great, because I don't think she was handling it well anyway.
Yeah, right. Oh, you're gonna have that.
Exactly. Yeah. And other team members may be like, wait, why are you doing that's like her favorite? She loved that project. She was going really great. Why are you doing that? Right. So they start to lose faith in the manager and start to question, your management capabilities when they see these things happen.
Right.
Now, that being said, you have to have those open conversations, but you also have to have them frequently because round 1 of chemo may have no effect. Round 2 of chemo may have no effect. Round 3 may knock them on their, tush. Yeah. And they may be thinking, I can't, I was coming in Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesdays. I can't even recover in time to get back to work on Monday, or I'm not thinking straight, or I'm unfocused. But as long as you're having those open conversations, you're giving the employee the opportunity to come to you and to say, hey, I'm really feeling unfocused. The other thing I know managers don't like to do, but it's a really great tool, is put together a work plan. What are the KPIs that are due at the end of the month? Like, what are the goals? What are the things this person has to get done to make this project work? And that way, and you're taking some of the things off their plate, but that way the employee can focus on doing the important things, maintain their feeling of being an important member of the team, but still have the opportunity to take care of themselves while they're going through this process. The other piece of it is, of course, is that manager needs to know what the employee wants to communicate. Some employees, the team will know that the employee has cancer before the manager will know. Right. Yeah. Some employees will go straight to HR. They don't have the relationship with if they have HR, they don't have the relationship with their manager. They want to be protected. They're going to go to HR immediately and then come to their manager. Right. So it varies, but you have to have a conversation with the team and you have to understand what the employee wants. Recently, we had I was working with a team and the employee said, look, I don't mind everyone know. I'm not going to tell them. So please tell everyone, and it's okay for anyone to tell anybody else. But I don't want the puppy-eyed arm thing where people come up and they touch your shoulder and they kind of rub it and they go, how are you? Yeah. It's the pity, the puppy-eyed pity, we call it.
Right.
And so she was very clear. And she also said, I don't want to talk all the time about my cancer. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I don't want to talk about what kind of cancer it is. I don't want to talk about what stage I'm at. I don't want to discuss those things. So that's what we communicated to her team. They loved her. She's sort of a central part of the team, but they had to abide by the rules. Like, don't, so you as a manager, it's really important that you understand how the employee wants to message. Some employees don't want anyone to know.
Yeah, that's right.
And so it might be, the message may be, this employee is dealing with some things right now. They'll be taking Thursday and Friday off. Yeah. We're gonna retool these projects a little bit so that we can take some pressure off of them so they can focus. Mm-hmm. And no, you're not allowed to ask.
Right.
However, the employee is happy to receive meals, and you can get on the meal train, and this is what you do. Yeah. So there are different ways to handle it, but there are as many different ways as there are fingerprints.
Yeah. Okay. That's very, very helpful. So then, Kim, how can we better manage death in the workplace if it's a coworker?
Yeah,
what can we do?
So the way I look at death is loss is a process. It's not a one and done thing. I've seen many organizations, they have an employee who dies, or and we could talk about this a little separately, or it's a partner of an employee or a child of an employee. So they think, we'll bring in grief counselors, we'll get it all over with, people can go talk, and then everything will go back to normal. I really encourage teams to think about how they want to manage a memorial and a process, right? A grieving process within their work. Funerals and memorial services are really important. They're, COVID was so difficult for so many people. Absolutely. Because you don't have that. That's the marking of an end of a life.
Right. Yeah.
And there is no reason that organizations cannot do the same thing within work. They can have a memorial service for the employee. So I often encourage that, and often think about what traditions do they want to go forward. Sometimes people will want to rush in, and let's say everyone's back in the office and they've got an office to clean out, or in COVID, let's say you've got to go to someone's home to get those things. Right. Who's going? What are they going? What are they saying? Are they bringing anything with them? What are they doing? What's the messaging? So I think it's really important that companies, they don't think about it, of course, until it happens, but they can even put together sort of a death plan. So it's sort of like,
that's so good.
On day 3, we're going to send flowers, or we're going to make sure flowers get to the funeral service. Yeah. On day 10, we're going to make sure that one team member is on the meal train, and that we are pitching in and making sure that meal train is happening. On day 30, because here's the thing, loss doesn't just disappear. Yeah. Right. So if you have, and maybe it's even before then, we all have emergency contact information in our files. Right. There's one employee whose responsibility is to reach out to the spouse, to the partner, and say, look, I know that you are really stressed right now. Can I please have the name and number of someone who we can feed, resources through to you, right? Because the partner isn't going to be a good choice, but the best friend will be a great choice. Okay. And the best friend can help coordinate. So you want someone who's going to help coordinate on the inside. So just kind of think about, you might want to set up a crying room. Maybe this employee had an office. Maybe that office is a sacred place for 6 months. So you're not going to use the space. You're going to do what you can not to use it. You're going to set it up so people can go in and just go, hey, George, I really miss you. That funny thing happened today, and I really miss you, and I wish you were here. And God darn it, sucks that you're not here. There's tissues in there. They cry, they get up, and they leave. If it's an employee who's coming back to work after loss, the hard thing about that is most of the time they look normal, right? So they look like they're fine, and they're not. Grief is one of the most interesting emotions. Well, we all know now that emotions are connected to our body, but grief is one of those ones that is so deeply connected. You lose focus. You can't remember things. You forget, you get short-tempered and irritated, because when something kind of annoys you, all of a sudden you go from 0 to 10. Yeah. So I think with that, I often, I haven't coached any team on that project yet, but one of the things I want to make sure that teams know is how to talk to the team about the grief process for the employee, because they need to understand when Seymour snapped at me. Yeah. It was day 15 after his wife died. Right. He's here, but he's not here. Right. At the same time, around month 2 or 3, you need to have the conversation with the employee of, okay, you need to now start to perform.
Yeah.
Right. So this again varies from company to company, but
Right.
it's really understanding that there is a process and you can't let the employee not perform for a year. That
Right.
is not going to be good for the
Right.
team, for the company, for
Right.
anything.
Yeah.
You can let them kind of get their feet kind of wet and understand what needs to happen. And then on the third month, start to have these kind of conversations with them about meeting their goals, about, about having, about, showing up on time to work. Cause sometimes it's hard to get out of bed.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's hard to
And
fall asleep. It's hard to get out of bed.
and the communication though, Kim, what you're describing is just making sure that you are communicating. Yeah.
It's brave conversations we're
Yeah.
having.
Yeah.
That's really what we're
They're
talking
and they're
about.
hard conversations, but
They're
they have to they have to occur for the betterment of the employee, of the organization. Yeah.
Exactly. They're
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Very
If you
much
do
so.
not have butterflies in your stomach or kind of that lump in your heart or you can't feel your heart racing, then either you're a professional grief counselor, you have that under your belt in your past,
Right.
or you're just not very emotional.
Right.
Because, talking to someone about the loss of their spouse, you look at them and all you can think about is that could be me.
Right. Right.
That could have been my child.
Right.
That could have
Exactly.
been my,
Oh yeah.
that could
Yeah.
have been my aunt,
Right.
So
Well,
really
yeah.
understanding that.
Yeah, I was like you with the shooting in Texas.
Yeah.
I was just walking around like in a nightmare because you just grieve so, and there is such
Yeah.
heaviness. So, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So, Kim, what are the side effects of cancer on a team? Are there some side effects?
That's a great question. I love it. Yes, there are a ton of side effects. I think the first thing is, there can be low productivity. What sometimes happens on very productive teams, there will be a dip. So the team will be going along fine. This
Mm-hmm.
cancer diagnosis happens. Everyone's just kind of feeling wobbly, and the productivity will go down. How far it goes down and how long it goes down depends on the
Mm-hmm.
manager and the support the team gets. So there's that. Long term, there's turnover. And oftentimes what I find, companies will have a person with cancer, they'll go through their cancer treatment, they'll wait a year, maybe 2 years, and then they leave. And the company says, oh, they're just leaving. But what they don't know is those seeds for leaving were sown during their cancer treatment,
Wow.
because there wasn't the conversation, there wasn't the support, there wasn't any of that. So
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes, people blame it on, oh, they just need to find a new
Right.
job, but no. And I've seen it where teams have, 6, 7 months after the employee is better, team members will start to leave. And that's also because, again, mismanagement.
Yeah.
The bottom line is, as we all know, studies show people don't leave companies, they leave their managers.
Mm-hmm.
And if the manager is not equipped to deal with this really difficult conversations, difficult topic in different at different levels, then the team is watching. And
Yeah.
and right now, with where we are with employment, people don't want to work for a company that's not going to show that they care for the
That's
employee.
right. Yeah.
People want to work for a company that's going to show that, that I matter. They're watching, and they
Yeah.
will leave if they're not, if they don't see what they think is good management.
Well, and I tell you, Kim, with COVID, with this pandemic, it's sort of recalibrated things. People don't have to, and they've
Yes,
reprioritized things, and they're thinking, no, that's just not a good fit for me, and they're making
exactly.
hard choices. So, yeah,
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly. And then they're going out and they're letting people know. And then next thing you know, 3 months later, they've got a brand new job.
yeah.
I've seen employees leave for less money.
Yes, Kim. So have I. I've
Mhm.
seen that. Yeah,
And if that doesn't say something to the team that's managing, then I don't know what else I can do
yeah.
to, talk to them. It's, this being in a company that feels good to you is really
Really
important
important.
to
It's
employees.
important. Yeah, absolutely. So, Kim, this is the last question. What is the one big, great lesson you want everyone listening to this to know?
I want everyone to know that they matter. How you show up for your employee, your coworker, your friend, your family with cancer really matters. I am not here doing what I do right now because I was super strong and able to muscle through and get through the death of my husband. Y'all, I'm here because of the hundreds and hundreds of kind, sweet things that people did for myself, for my husband, for my children. People still do sweet things for my children. And all those things just helped me get through hopefully, the most difficult time in my entire life.
Wow.
And I think we underestimate our value. I wish people could have funerals before they die. Because you hear how you affected people and how you changed them, and how that secretary who you say good morning to every morning loves the fact that you say good morning to her or him every morning. So that's the message. You matter. What you do, how you show up, especially when someone you work with or care about is in crisis, matters to them, and it does help them. So I want people to really take that to heart and have the courage to just keep trying.
Okay. All right. Well, Kim, thank you so much. And please share with our listeners how they can get in touch with you, your website, please, and your book again, all of that.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the book is on Amazon, but it's also available on my website. And my website is 100actsoflove.com. And that's the number 100. You can get a free download, 5 phrases never to say to anybody with cancer and what to say.
I'm on that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do tell you what to say instead. I don't leave you hanging.
Okay.
And you can find that at 100actsoflove.com/what not to say. No spaces, all lowercase. What not to say, what not to say, what not to say, what not to say.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, again, Kim, thank you so much. A heavy topic, but I tell you, you gave such great information, such wonderful insight, and it's been my honor to speak with you today.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I wish you all the best. You take good care.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.